will eventually get sharp. So I'm not going to do that very quickly. For instance, on this photo, I'm not suggesting you crop everything this tight, but what you're seeing here is just, I mean, look at this guy's skin. It's like sandpaper. It looks like shit. This guy's like 45, 50 years old. You know, he works for American Express and he's a drag queen at night, you know. But you look at his lips, they're just like bright, luscious cherries. But the contrast between that and this sandpaper skin is what makes this photo work, you know. And if you were 4 feet back, you wouldn't see that. In this particular context, this had to be a very tight photograph. But the point being, a lot of people take pictures from much too far away. You know, you don't necessarily have to get in there and crop like really tight like that. But look at the difference between this photo, and this one. You know, this one works so close up because it's the photograph of the lips. It's not even a photograph of the guy anymore. You know, this one is interesting just because it's you know, you see the room and the whole thing and his little computer on the bed and all this. But this photo is about him putting on the makeup. You know, so here's a perfect example of going in from here to here. What a huge difference of photographs that is, you know. And quite literally, I've moved in probably 2 feet, 3 feet. That's it, you know. But it's very important to sort of get in and focus on what's the important thing. What is it? You know, in this particular case, this photo works because when they're all in makeup, they prefer to be called she. So in this particular context, she's out flagging a cab. So it's important that you see, you know, the whole street and whatever. If you only saw this much, you know, it would just be somebody standing out on the street, you know, that sort of thing. So it's depending on what you're trying to show, what you're trying to portray in the photograph, you need to get in close enough to see it, to make out what's going on. You know, like this, you know, this along with this, you know, obviously we flagged the cab, now we're on our way to the club, and here we are, she's performing in the club. So in terms of photo essay, here's a perfect example. In a photo essay, you get some kind of a progression, you know. You know, here's putting on the makeup, you know, getting into the clothes, putting on the earrings, zipping up the dress. Here we are down in the cab, on our way, and then it's performing at the club, you know. So it's, now this is again specifically for a magazine story. I prefer that all my photographs be able to stand on their own. You should be able to see one image and think, wow, that's great. I hate where a magazine, well, they'll include a photograph that I personally don't think is one of the better ones, but they'll include it because it sort of goes with the story. I prefer that they should only show the great photographs and let people fill in the blanks a little bit. Some magazines like to be very literal in that they have to have the from A to B to C to D, you know. I don't think, you know, I'm giving people the benefit of the doubt, but I think if the C photograph is missing because C is kind of a weak photograph, I think you can still get away with the story, you know. So where I kind of digress, but fill the frame, make sure you're looking at everything. I mean, I know this is really hard to do because oftentimes you got a split second. I mean, you know, from here, we were literally standing out on the street probably 3 minutes before we got a taxi. And then boom, no, we can't take any more photos of this. Now we're taking in the taxi. And the whole trip was probably, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes in the taxi and then we're there. But, so oftentimes things happen very quickly, but it's very, let's go back to the Italy example. Going from here again, it's a lot to look at very quickly, and things happen very fast. But the difference. Oops.
We'll have to cover your wife after you get into that.
Yeah, I did. What do you mean in terms of?
Oh, I don't know.
Cover her? Oh, okay, that's what you mean. What Danielle's alluding to is my wife is actually a curator at an art gallery. So she, organizes gallery exhibits, artists, various shows on a number of subjects and that sort of thing. But what I was talking about in terms of, whip your eye around the edge, move slightly to get rid of these people. There's a lot going on. It happens really fast. The world's moving, unless you're shooting the kind of thing which is like a tabletop thing, you're shooting like flowers or whatever the hell it is, and that's fine if that's your thing. It just doesn't appeal to me. So for me, if I'm shooting out on the street, stuff happens really fast. You got to be ready to take the picture, and you got to react to it. And literally 30 seconds later, not even 5 seconds after I took this, the girl's running down the street. She's late for communion, for God's sake. She's got to be there. So the whole incident happened in the space of a minute. So a lot of it is part of it is being lucky. There's a really lovely quote. There's a guy by the name of John Sarkowski, who was the director of photography at the MoMA, Museum of Modern Art. And he, in an interview once, the interviewer was saying to him, I can't remember the photographer's work they were talking about, but the interviewer made some flip comment to the extent that he said, "Oh, well, that photographer, his work, a lot of it depends on luck." Sort of brushing, passing off the photographer as being lucky. And Sarkowski kind of snapped back and he said, "Of course, luck plays an important part in any good photographer's work, but only after they've worked hard enough for luck to become a factor." And the point being, you go to school for art or photography or whatever it is, you learn how to use your equipment, be it the $8,000 camera or the $25 camera. You know what you're doing with it. You know what it can do, and you know the limitations of the camera and that sort of thing. And you've practiced using it. I mean, every time I buy a new camera, no joke, I will sit there for 2 weeks while my wife and I are watching television. I got the manual in one hand and the camera in another. And I'm sitting there playing, I'm taking pictures of the TV, and my wife's, "Would you please fucking stop that?" And I'm like, because I want to learn how to use that camera properly, And then you can actually go out and use it. And it's, when I'm running around taking pictures either in New York or in Italy or whatever, like I said, the camera's ready to go. I'll walk down the street and I'm like, wow, it's getting a little dark here, change the lighting, here we go, okay. The light's going way down, it's really cloudy, I'm going to change the white balance, warm it up a little. This is in anticipation of taking pictures. So as you're going along, you're not seeing a picture, because a lot of stuff, like I said, happens too fast. If I see a picture, one of my classes, the Panasonic classes, about 6 months ago, we were just going to walk around, take pictures out on the street. We were walking along on Canal Street through Chinatown. All of a sudden there's a police bus, 10 cops out of everywhere, all plainclothes guys. They got this guy in handcuffs, they're, dragging him off, all these cops, sirens, the whole thing just happened right in front of us. I got 6 students, they're all click, 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 click. We get back to the studio, not a single picture turned out. Because they had their cameras set from like last night or whatever. They're all overexposed or underexposed, they're too blurry because the shutter speed was wrong, because they weren't anticipating. It's you have to be, to shoot this kind of stuff, to shoot documentary stuff on the street, you have to be ready, because it will happen and be gone before you have a chance to catch it. We already talked about taking multiple frames,